I want to talk to you today about Cornell Notes, and you can see an example of them in front of you. This is from a class I've taken, still taking. I took these notes on the 6th of May, so it's been a while. It's the wrong time of year for me to be a YouTuber, I guess. I've been busy. But anyway, this is what Cornell Notes look like. Now, Cornell Notes, excuse me, have the advantage of being designed. And I'll tell you the idea behind them. If you're going to learn something, so we're talking notes in an educational setting, of course, you need to interact with your material. Yes, I have some written notes of my own that are not in Cornell format. We'll get to that. Writing, the actual act of physical writing, engages all parts of your brain. The outline does all that, but the thing with the outline format that I showed you last time we were together is it doesn't lend itself well to actually interacting with the material. Because a big part of it is to go back, go over it. Anybody who's a teacher or in education or has tried to learn things knows that the more you repeat it, the more it becomes automatic. Beginning of the year, I'll have new students and I'll be like, Walter, Julie, what is your name again? By the end of the year, it's just automatic who they are. So it's the same thing with anything you're learning. It needs to be reviewed. So Cornell Notes were developed as a way to do that. Now, excuse me, they're actually developed by a gentleman named Walter Pauk. I may be mispronouncing his last name. It's P-A-U-K, who was at Cornell University, and he developed these back in the 50s. And you will find it in a book called How to Study in College, also by the same gentleman. I was very curious. I almost bought a copy and went on Amazon, and for $80 to $90, I said, oh no, not doing that. So the way you do Cornell Notes is you have to write an offset letter I. And here's a page that I didn't complete. Okay, so that's not quite a letter I, it's more of a T. There should be another bar here. I just used the line that's on the page. In the heading, you put a title, a date, any other info. You can actually find notebooks sold that are pre-printed with a Cornell template. I don't see the reason to pay the extra for that myself, but for several reasons. But even if well, I'll just tell you what I think of Cornell Notes. The end of this video, let's keep it positive for now. So, the wide part of the notes of the I, is for your notes, the actual notes that you take as you go through the material. I will just note that, yes, your notes could be outline form like this. They could be sketch notes. They could be any format of notes that you like. Now, important, whenever you're taking notes, sorry, just check and make sure I'm still recording. Whenever you're taking notes, you want to look for the main points, the most important ideas, not all the fidgety little details that nobody cares about, not the little rabbit trails your lecturer wanders off on. And if you're a teacher, that's what you should be rewarding. You know, don't be testing your students on how well do they memorize all these picky little details, because if you're doing that, stop. That's not what, because they're going to forget it all anyway. So we're not doing a transcript here. It's just a summary. Now, you then go back to your notes and interact with them. If you're like me, you'll take your notes and your studying is more like, oh, let's see, read over it. And it's not actually interacting. So what you do in this Q column is what it's called, is you put like keywords, main points, possible questions. You know, just pull out the most important ideas here. So it's like a summary of your notes, which are already a summary. And that's good practice in picking out the most important points. And I will say again, some teachers totally undermine that by testing their students on details. And if you're doing that, stop! At the bottom of the page, just a summary. Again, we're interacting with the material. Now, to review it, we can fold this over. I don't really want to, but fold it over so all I see is this Q side, especially if I've written questions there. It talks about you use your questions 10 minutes a week. Well, that's what I wrote down. I'm taking this off of several websites, including Cornell's How to Study. So, yeah. And then reflect, just what connections do you see in the material. That's just general studying stuff. Anyway, my tool that I went and grabbed was a highlighter. This is not actually a highlighter, but it's fountain pen, so this is a way to do it. But one of the things they suggest going back and doing, oh, looks like I already did it, is maybe what are some of the important things? Like what's a watt? You can go back through and you can interact with your notes in a lot of ways. And highlighting is one of those ways. Now, I'm going to mention a study. I will admit that I didn't think this was a particularly scientific study, but I'm going to cite a Wichita State study in secondary English. And what they found is there was a slight benefit when students synthesize and apply basic knowledge, and that guided notes, now when I say guided notes, I mean ones that are somewhat done for you and you're filling them in, are better for basic recall. Now I looked on a couple other websites about Cornell Notes. One was a teacher who actually requires all the notes in her class to be done as Cornell Notes, and they turn them in for credit. And she gives bonus points on their notes if they do a sketch of the topic and the heading. They can use icons. She has, what'd she teach? History. There's certain themes in the history classes. She likes them to use icons for those. At the bottom, down here, she likes them to summarize with a scene or a concept map or a Venn diagram. In the notes, she likes dividers, images, and diagrams. And then, again, color code the themes, like maybe renewable energy we can do in this color. Non-renewable energy we can do in this color. Oh, I grabbed a black pen. But anyway, the point is color coding. And the real benefit, again, is you're interacting with the notes. And it does combine well with other forms of note-taking. Now let me give you my take. I worked hard. I did notes, Cornell Notes style. Got lazier and lazier as I went on, because here's why. I hated it. I thought the Cornell Notes were very constricting. I felt like, Urgh! And that's not how notes should be. If I'm worrying more about the format than I am about the content, that's a problem. So I didn't like Cornell Notes. I do like that you interact with the material and review it. I think that's the biggest strength of the Cornell Notes, but there are lots of ways to interact with material in order to study. And perhaps down the road I should do some videos on studying, something I didn't used to be very good at, but that's not what this is about. But as far as getting information down, I just found it constricting. There are ways to do this and this. I do like that it's open to other forms of notes, but so are they all. I mean, really, when you take notes, match your notes to the material and the situation. Sometimes an outline makes sense, sometimes a sketch note. Maybe there's a situation where the Cornell Notes make sense. I don't know. But moral story is I didn't care for them. But for some people, this is a very good tool. That's why Cornell Notes are recommended on several university and how-to-study type websites, because of this interaction. Forces the student to actually review the material right away. The more times you can repeat something, the more likely you are to remember it. And it becomes automatic, because the brain is lazy. The brain jumps to things just like that. And we don't... To think is hard, so we want to make good information be like that. I'll give you an example of tying your shoelaces. You watch a little kid who's just learned how to do it, tie their shoelaces, and they may even be squinting because they're concentrating so hard on getting that right, and the whole brain is in on it. Well, when you're me, I can bend down, tie my shoe. I probably won't even remember doing it. I can carry on a conversation while I'm tying the shoe. Well, I'm 41 years old. I've had a couple of years of practice with doing it. The little kid, no. So that automaticity, the more you repeat things, the better you get at them, and the more automatic they become. And that's what the brain does. Oh, this is something they do all the time. I better make that automatic. So reviewing the material helps with the retention. And again, I will just say with teachers, and I've said this 3 times now, so I'm repeating it because hopefully I'm getting this message out to teachers. You're not teaching kids factoids. And no matter how much you convince yourself that, yeah, they're going to memorize all 45 presidents in order and their terms, and that'll be with them for the rest of their life. No, it won't. You're deluding yourself when you're expecting them to memorize a whole bunch of facts. They'll memorize it for the tests, it'll be gone. So teach in a way, teach for the big ideas. Not so much memorizing all 45 presidents, but maybe there's some common themes. I think FDR would be a good president to talk about. Well, why was he elected for 4 terms? Why is he the only one that has 4 terms? That's a little bit bigger ideas. Why was... I'm not a history teacher, so I'm kind of stupid for picking a history example. I'm sorry. But anyway, the point is, look for the bigger theme. Okay, photosynthesis. Really? Do we need to know all those steps? Do we need to know... And I could pull out the photosynthesis diagram in my biology book and show it to you, and you'd just be like... yeah, I had to learn all those NADHs and NADH plus and all those crazy things going on in the photosynthesis. But, really, what is the big idea that helps you wrap everything else around it? Plants take carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. The sunlight causes the water to be split. It gives you oxygen. And then it takes the hydrogen, combines it with the carbon and the oxygen from the carbon dioxide that you're breathing out, and turns it into and stores the energy in that molecule that's created. That's the whole idea. But then you meet biology majors. And I know I've read studies about this, and they'll ask, where do plants get most of their mass from? The ground, because they have roots, and that's where they get their mass from. No! And if you're missing those central concept of photosynthesis, you're not going to catch that. Same thing, not in reverse, but same thing with me. If I want to lose weight, how does it come out of me? Oh, it was in your toilet. No, it doesn't. Most of my weight, if I'm losing weight, comes out here. Not because I'm vomiting, but because I'm breathing out stored food on my blubber as carbon dioxide. So, and if you get so wrapped up in your details, you miss those really important key ideas that you need. And those big important key ideas are what everything else hangs on. It's a lot easier for me to remember things if it's not a lot of memorization. If it's actually fitting into a framework that's already there. That was my trouble with biology. I'm getting off on a tangent, but what the hell. When I started teaching, I got my degree in physics, and I end up in this small rural high school where I was the only science teacher, grades 7 through 12, and had to teach biology, earth science, 7th grade life science, chemistry, and everything, and physics was only every other year. Well, I taught in those schools long enough that I finally started to see the big ideas in biology. Why? Because biology had always been presented as a whole bunch of stuff to memorize, a whole bunch of details, a whole bunch of things. And I just could never see the big ideas. Towards the end of my time teaching biology, I was finally seeing and teaching those big ideas, and it paid off with my students. Another big idea in biology, well, in fact, probably one of the biggest, would be evolution, because that's like, where did the cellular respiration photosynthesis come from? But I guess my point is, as a teacher, you should be teaching big ideas. And as a student, when you're taking notes, you should be looking at those big ideas, because that's what's going to help you remember everything else. So next week, I will get into sketch notes. I personally have grown to really like them, even though I've only recently started seriously delving into that. But I'll talk about that next week. So hope this is interesting. Hope it was useful. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.